You're listening to Kill Cliff's Hazard Ground podcast, with service members from across the military sharing their stories of combat and survival. And now, here's your host, Mark Zinno.
Welcome into the Hazard Ground podcast. As always, we appreciate you joining us each and every week. Before we get started with this week's story of a former Marine who was actually shot in the neck and lived to tell about it. We'll get to that coming up in just a few moments. First, our normal set of reminders. Please don't forget to follow us on all the social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hazard Ground Podcast. Keep up with what we have going on with the show. Any future guests, please correspond with us there as well. Love to hear from the listeners, what you guys like and which stories you really were into. So please give us some feedback. We'll take it there. Speaking of feedback, don't forget to leave us Apple reviews. This helps grow the show and this Hazard Ground community trying to crack that top 100 Apple Podcasts. We're going to get there eventually one day, folks, but can't do it without your help. So wherever you get Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Doesn't have to be a lengthy one. Could just be a short one-sentence review. Give us 5 stars. And we'll certainly appreciate you guys doing that. Don't forget about our promotion with Amazon. You can go to our website, hazardground.com, and click on the Amazon button at the bottom of the homepage or under the sponsors tab, and it'll redirect you to Amazon. You can do all of your normal Amazon shopping. Hey, Mother's Day is coming up here as we get set to record this. So if when you're hearing this, it's past Mother's Day, find another reason. But any Amazon shopping you need to do, go to hazardground.com. It'll redirect you to Amazon. We get a portion of what you guys spend, and then we donate a portion of that back to some of the great charities and organizations you've heard featured here on the Hazard Ground. And as well, it works from your smartphone, redirects you to your app. So if you save your credit card information in the app, it's really easy and really user-friendly. Don't forget to go to hazardground.com first whenever you do Amazon. Of course, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch all of our Hazard Ground episodes and download the Kill Cliff TV app because you can watch our episodes there as well. Don't forget about our good friends and partners at killcliff.com. The clean energy drinks, as I face it forward for those watching, and make sure you can see the label and logo. This is their CBD version of their Killer Cliff Sickle. It's absolutely fantastic. Big fan of Kill Cliff. I use their pre-workout and their post-workout, their Ignite and their Recover. Absolutely amazing clean energy drinks, better than anything else out there on the market. Killcliff.com to get all of your Kill Cliff clean energy drinks. All right, this week's guest is a former Marine who got out of the Marine Corps after a 4-year tour as a corporal. He had multiple deployments, including one to Afghanistan, and he is awarded the Purple Heart after being shot through the neck. He is currently the Chief Operating Officer of Merging Vets and Players, also known as MVP. He is Noel Huerta, joining us here on the Hazard Ground. Noel, great to talk to you, buddy. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate it. Excited to be part of this.
Boy, I've interviewed many of your cohorts from MVP, so it's great to hear your story finally and kind of understand. You know, we spent so much time together talking about work and doing other things that, you know, we encourage so many other people around us to talk about their story, and we never actually talk to each other about our own. So I'm excited to hear the journey that you went on and how you ended up as the Chief Operating Officer of MVP. But back at the beginning, how and why did you get in the Marine Corps?
You know, I think many people don't really, you know, go to high school, and then a lot of us don't really have what we're going to do after high school really planned out. You know, I was a pretty smart kid growing up, but you know, I really didn't really believe myself. I didn't really see myself as a college kid. So I thought, you know, how would we? You know, it's funny. At first, I wanted to join the Air Force. And, you know,
that would have been smart.
Yeah. I wanted to join the Air Force, and, you know, I was excited. I remember going to the recruiting station and walking in there, and it was the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Army Force. So when I went in there, luckily the Navy guy wasn't there. So I kind of just surpassed him, and I went straight to the Air Force. My intention was to go to the Air Force because my high school offered a junior ROTC specifically for the Air Force. So, you know, I was like, hey, I'm just going to try to see if we walk in and get some information from each of the branches, just kind of understand where I can be at, you know, service and what I can do as a career. So I walked into the Air Force, the Air Force office, and, you know, people say like the first impression of somebody really sticks to you of how you feel yourself, how the future is going to look like. The guy was a little bit overweight. He was he was a little overweight. Wasn't really clean shaven. He pretty dirty. But and then the first thing he did is before I even sat down, he's like, "Hey, do you have a tattoo?" He's like, "I see that you have a tattoo on your forearm," and I'm like, "Yeah." I was dumb. I was a kid. I hang out with the wrong people, and I ended up with a tattoo on my forearm, it was pretty big. It was about 4 or 5 inches. And right off the bat, he just said, "Well, in order for us to qualify to the Air Force, you have to have you can't your tattoo can't surpass your size of your hand." And I was like, off that bat, I just kind of turned me off, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna walk the hell out of here. So I turned around before he even knew before I even did NASVAB or anything. He just straight kind of dismissed me. So I walked a different direction. The Army guy was talking to some other person in the other room, so it seemed like he was a little busy. The only guy that really stood out to me was the Marine Corps recruiter, which is pretty funny. But the guy was 6 feet tall, buff, like athletic build, everything. First thing he came up to me, he's like, "Hey man, do you want to, I see that you want to go talk to the Air Force guy. Next time, just tell your friends, just pass that. That's just the place where we like to get coffee and come pass by there." And, and I was like, "What?" Okay. So he's like, so I went straight to him. He talked to me about opportunities in the Marine Corps. Of course, during that time, the war of Iraq was going on, and he pitched it to me. He said he was overseas. He talked to me what I wanted to do. He asked me how I did on my ASVAB pre-test, which I did pretty good. I told him I did almost over 80, I think 85, I think I got on that score. He's like, "Well, I have all these opportunities for you." But he asked me what I really wanted to do. And I said, I want to do something that challenges me, and I want to do something that really makes a difference. Of course, he mentioned a couple of computer jobs of different logistics opportunities, but I wasn't really interested. When he brought up, I asked him, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Well, I was a Marine Corps sniper." He did upsell it pretty well, talking about it. But ultimately, he told me, he's like, "What is the purpose of you joining the service?" It's like, "Oh, I want to make a difference. I want to do something different than out of my comfort zone. I want to go out there and help people." My whole life, I've been trying to find ways to do that, and I think this is a great opportunity to do that. And I want to be in the grind. I want to do the hard work. Obviously, the first thing you said was infantry. Perfect thing to do is infantry, and I wasn't really scared of going to war, and I wanted opportunity to do something different. And like I said, it's something that inside of my DNA that really inspired me to want to fight for something that I believed in, which is the United States. Growing up here my whole life, my parents being descendants from Mexico. I wanted to find my purpose in here as a United States citizen. So I joined the Marine Corps. So that the history's there for me. I did infantry. When I got infantry, I went straight to boot camp, San Diego, MCRD. I was there for 3 months of boot camp. It was hell. I mean, I can tell you how much I wanted to quit. They don't let you quit there. I mean, there's no ringing of the bell or any of that stuff. You stick it in, stick in there as long as you can. And of course, having people, I did stuff that I never thought my body could do there. And going from doing 3-4 pull-ups in high school to doing over almost 40 pull-ups there after I got out of boot camp was pretty impressive for my own self, that I couldn't believe I was capable of doing. So if I was capable of doing that, or also learn how to drill, what else can I do? So after that, I went to school infantry. When I did school infantry, they gave us an opportunity for us to become either 0311 grunts, because we're all open up as option. So they talk about going to rifleman, or you can go to weapons company and weapons platoon, or doing stuff out of like a type of weapon and stuff like that. So we took the test. I did really, really well in the test. They gave me an opportunity to pick what option I wanted. At first, I wanted a machine gunner, but I did see the motor aspect of it. I wanted to find ways to use my brain a little bit more in calculations and stuff like that. So I thought I was really good in high school with education. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to become a motorman. I wanted to be a forward observer, fire direction center. I thought that was intriguing to me. I like calculations. I like to use my brain a little bit more in there. And and the history was there. I did I went to be a mortarman. I was 0341. After the old school infantry, I was sent to the worst place any Marine can go. As far as, living there, it was 29 Palms. I thought I was going to end up in Camp Pendleton, San Diego, where I was going to have that nice beach, nice, beautiful weather. But I ended up back to kind of Vegas, at the Vegas feel, or the desert and mountains. So it wasn't that great. So, at first, when I got there, of course, I mean, during that time, 2007, hazing was a big thing still there. And I'm guessing before that, it was even worse. So when I got there, the first thing I got in there, the first drop, it was about 3 of us. When we got there, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I thought boot camp in school infantry was hard enough. But when I got to the 27, 2nd Battalion Submarines, it was like walking in eggshells, man. Everybody was yelling at me, making me do push-ups, making me clean again, made me stand up for a rest, to PFCs, like same position, same literally rank as me, asking me to do certain things, the same thing. Well, it's because a lot of them had experience. They went to war, and they've been there for a while. Some of them got demoted. But overall, like, the experience itself was a very different, uncomfortable experience for me at the beginning. I can't say that was the entire time in the Marine Corps for sure. As soon as I got through the ranks, as soon as I got through the training, I realized the reason why the Marines were so strong, and so try to break you as much as they can, because, man, like, when you go to war, like, all that stuff really, really helps you get through the hard stuff. So when we finished the training stuff after we went to Mojave Viper, we did a bunch of gun drills, a bunch of stuff. I was attached to Fox Company. I was a line company mortarman. So I got exactly what I wanted. When I go into the grind, become a line company mortarman. I wasn't on the trucks with the 81s and the 120s in the Army, but I was using the 60s, the small little handhelds. And so attached to the Fox Company, and Fox Company was the weapons platoon. We have a lot of different platoons in that company. So when I was there, I had these really mean seniors, we call them. A guy named he's probably gonna hear this too, but Corporal Hinojosa, he was Lance Corporal Hinojosa at that time. He was Hispanic like myself. He was very, very tough on me, for sure, making sure that I do everything right. Every time I messed up, he would just throw stuff sand on me, would just make me do push-ups, whatever, you name it. He made me do. And I never thought of what that really was. I thought he was just playing around, and I thought that was just, he was just the way the person was. The other seniors didn't really talk to me very much. It was mostly, the majority of them were, white males. But I think I was the only Hispanic, myself, and some other person in that weapons platoon. So it wasn't many. So I got hazed a lot there in the military, and I think, but it made me what I am today. And then once it was all over, once we actually got orders to go to Iraq, the training just commenced like crazy. At first, we thought that we weren't going to go to Iraq. It was supposed to be the last push of Iraq, but we got orders to go to Afghanistan. So we were going to be the first battalion to go to Afghanistan. We didn't tell us information, said that we were going to go out to train Afghan police. When I say again, train Afghan police, that was our job. His mission was to go out to train Afghan police to be able to protect their own country.
What year was this, by the way?
2008.
Okay, so 2000.
Yeah, 2008. So we were supposed to go out and train the Afghan police. 2008. But it was crazy though, because it was 2007. Still, it was into 2008 that we went to Afghanistan. So we were over there.
Which was kind of forgotten about at that point. Like the surge of Iraq was 07. And Afghanistan was just like this thing floating off on the side by the time 2008 had rolled around. And we kind of almost, 20 years later forgot it still, but you get the point. Like, I mean, it wasn't really a big focus.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. We didn't have much information. Intel didn't give us much information of where we're going to go, what we're going to do. We did a lot of training. We did a Mojave Viper. We did Yuma training. We did a bunch of different gun drills, different leadership traits, different classes. We did everything possible to train our people that we needed to train to be able to go out to Afghanistan. It's going to be a different world out there. I mean, the 29 Palms is probably the most perfect place to train for Afghanistan. I can tell you, it looks just alike. I mean, the mountains, the rocks, the sand. I mean, everything about it was mostly identical to Afghanistan when we went out there. So that we were trained pretty well to get out there. So once we did deploy, we deployed for over a year. We were extended because of so much stuff that went out there. So I was attached to a platoon, I think second or third platoon, and we were assigned to Nowzat. It was in Southern Helmand, Afghanistan. So we flew into Kandahar, and from Kandahar, we kind of went to Bastion. From Bastion, I don't know, I think they changed the name, but from there, we spread out to our ops. But before I get to there, one last thing is that when we were at Kandahar, we got to experience this Toby Keith that was out there. And it was fun. I have this episode story. When we were out there, Toby Keith was performing, and it's an Air Force base. A bunch of Air Force people are the Army guys, it's everywhere. So it was funny is they had their own subway that it's called MRI, MCT, whatever it's called, whatever. One of the places where they go in and they do they have coffee, food, whatever, you name it. Yeah. You just kind of keep your mind off the war, right?
MWR.
That's what it's called. MWR. So yeah, so we had MWR. The subway, instead of giving you lettuce, they'll give you cabbage. Because there was no lettuce, so they used
lettuce in the Middle East. Yeah, I know.
It was the most disgusting thing ever, but I mean, it's a subway. So we got some of that, whatever. But the Toby Keeper was performing that one of those nights. The Marine Corps, the Marines, those Marines, the Air Force people were all in the front, the Marines were all in the back. We're like, damn, we got here a little late. We're always like the stepchild that's in the back. The Air Force people go in the front. They're lucky. They get to experience the whole Toby Keith thing. I didn't really know who Toby Keith was at that time. Everybody liked this, so I was like, oh, let's listen to him, whatever. And it was a concert. Who cares? Who cares who was singing? Who was performing? So when we're out there, we got incoming fire. We got incoming mortar fire, and it wasn't even close to us. It was just from far distant. We just heard it. When that happened, everybody ran away. It was the graphical scene, like in a movie where we ran away. When I say everybody ran away, the only people that did not run away was instead of the Marines running away, they're like, oh, everybody left, so let's go to the front. So Kobe Keith was tackled down by one of his security guards, took him to the back, and then when they realized the incoming fire was not coming here, the Air Force people came back, but the Marine Corps guys was already in the front. So we ran into the front of the line, and we were like, yeah. So we were experiencing this Toby Keith concert now in the front. And Toby Keith came back, and the history was there. It was a fun night, but from there it kind of went. From there, it didn't get any better. That was probably the funnest night we had. After that, we pushed out to our fobs. We got to Nowzat. We were supposed to. There was a different area that was supposed to be more. We sent out an additional Marines to a different location because we thought that the other area was going to be.
So your platoon ended up being split.
We did, yes. Okay. So Sanjin was supposed to be the top place where the Taliban were hosting. They were causing the most danger there. They were killing people, the civilians, whatever. It became the opposite. As soon as we got to Nowzat, we got fire. We got incoming fire from everywhere. We found our intel was incorrect, and it was actually a training facility for Taliban. So they were protecting Nowzat, like with no like the president, like the White House, out there. They were just doing everything possible for us not to get there. when we got to the area, the British and Estonia Marines were already out there. So the British Marines and the Army in Estonia soldiers were there, like they kind of briefed us of what we're going to experience. There wasn't really a fob. We had to pretty much build one from the ground up.
Yeah.
They had a small the British compound in Estonia they were sharing, but not much. So when we got there, they gave us a pre-destination. Hey, you cannot pass the ridge line because after you pass the ridge line, you get fire and we have to retreat. There's too much going on. Too much casualties. The first fucking night, our captain, or I don't know who gives him the orders, but decides we should go out there and do a patrol past the ridge line. After the British and Estonia told us not to go there, first thing we did was go out there. We passed the bridge line. We started getting effect, and we passed the bridge line like nothing. We think about Marines is just like when they get that adrenaline rushing, there's no stopping them. There's no fear in there, and that's all the training that we've done, right? The boot camp, the psychological warfare that we experienced in boot camp and SOI and in the fleet. So when we were out there, we were just a paramedic. We were all young, right? We were all 21. I mean, not 21. I'm not even 18.
So
we're all 18.
let me ask you, when you get the orders to go past the bridge line after you've already been told don't do that, it's going to end up badly for you. Are you the Marine who's going, I don't care, we'll go kick their ass? Or are you the Marine who's going, this is a bad idea? Like we were just told, don't do this.
Well, I was a new guy, so I mean, I do whatever my team leader and them tell me to do. So I was a new guy, so I thought that was standard. What's that, Mark?
What was your feeling? Like, did you feel like
I was scared?
Okay,
I was fearful. I was like my first patrol, so I was a little fearful out there, and I was, like I said, I was attached to a platoon that there were a bunch of grunts, 0311s, which is riflemen, and I was the only motorman. So myself and my team leader. So I had this giant tube, 60 millimeter tube in my hand, and have a backpack carrying a bunch of rounds. Who are they going to aim at? They're going to aim at the guy with the bigger weapon, right? So they see a big guy with the big weapon, and then they see the guy with the radio. So they're going to aim at those people. So the first thing they were doing is firing at us. So we were hiding behind like different walls across like the compounds that were there to get away from there. But the great thing about it is that once we did that, they knew that the United States was there. As soon as we passed that surpass, they knew the U.S. was there. We had radio frequency that we can hear them on the radio saying, and Pashto talking to the other people, other Taliban leaders, even people in the civilian, saying that, hey, the U.S. is here. The U.S. is here. They're here. They're here. We have to make sure we're doubling security, whatever. From there, man, we lost countless people there, man, of injuries, people getting hurt. I think it was like a month later. That's when I finally, we had weapons. We also had a weapons platoon also attached to us. So we had a weapons team, mortar team, that 81s that set up their fob there. We put up our foxholes and we were sleeping on cots. We built our own like underground foxhole, which is pretty cool. And we were there. The 81s were there. They had their FDC stuff. I would keep in mind I was still a new guy, so I couldn't be a FDC or FO, which is Forward Observer. I couldn't do the calculations. They don't trust a new guy to do that stuff. So
did you feel like you were smart enough to do it though?
What's that?
Did you feel like you were capable?
Yeah, for sure. And I was looking at the calculation. I felt like they were all off. I mean, sometimes we're off. The guy that was there, I mean, no offense to him. Like I said, I think he was doing a great job. I forget his name. But it's funny, I was there with him for a long time. I just don't really talk to him much. Because I don't really have that rank, so I can't really speak to him. He was a sergeant. Right. But he was in charge of the FDC center and the Forward Observer Center. So I know Keith Branch is one of them, Forward Observer. I mean, that guy's amazing, man. If he hears this, I can tell you that dude just has gone through so much and has saved thousands of a lot of Marines out there. And he was a very big inspiration. But now a lot of that stuff affects you mentally, and I think that's what he's experiencing now, and I think that's what we all experiencing now.
Right.
But when I get to it,
I was going to say, before you go forward, I wanted to ask you, you had mentioned that you had lost guys to this point before you end up going forward. When that happens and you start to experience like combat in its worst form, for somebody like you who again, objectively from the outside, you're a smart kid. You probably could have done other things, but you chose this, a life of service in the Marines, for you, for your family, whatever. And then you're starting to see the other end of the spectrum of, there is imminent death around you. Are you ever second guessing the decision? Are you recognizing that, that combat is unforgiving, and that, maybe I should have used my brains for something else, kind of deal? Like, where's your head with all of it?
Yeah, and my mind was like that. I did think that I made a bad decision when I was definitely. I mean, as soon as I got into the fleet, it was, like I said, it was a hellhole. It was I was getting yelled at for everything I did. I was telling how to dress. I was telling how to act. Making fun of how I speak. Some Spanish speaker. Again, just making fun of the way I everything I do. I mean, that's just the way it is. But when I got out of the war, everything kind of, when I went to Afghanistan, everything kind of just, that stuff didn't really matter to me. That the color of your skin, your nationality, your background doesn't really matter to anybody anymore. You're fearful for your life. I think anybody as human being, right? We're scared of the unknown, right? We're scared of what's going to happen. As soon as a guy got blown up in IED, like, that made it real. So when we started seeing people getting shot and injured, and it was a pretty scary moment, because we're starting to see guys getting sent back. And what the scary part about it, the most thing, is the Marine Corps is like, when we do certain, like, when we go there and we take over an area, we start building the FOB, right? But the problem is that a lot of our machinery got broken. A lot of our machines got broken. A lot of our trucks to fill the sandbags that we needed to protect the FOB was broken. We had to do everything manually. So just imagine a bunch of tons of fucking dudes just grabbing the sand, grabbing sandbags and filling them up and putting them as protection barriers from bullets and from fire. But the entire deployment, we were never able to fill them out. They were empty the majority of the time. So somebody would come and attack us. We really didn't have protection. The trucks that we were utilizing we were unprepared in every single way. I don't know where the intel came from. I don't know. It might have been, I don't know, but we're speculating where the intel came from. But
are you losing faith in your leadership with stuff like that?
You do, because like you start losing people. And then your leadership team, like the main people were like, we lost our squad leaders. Like the first day, like a lot of squad leaders got wounded. We started going to compounds. The thing about Taliban are very smart fighters. Of course, you can tell, you know that from fighting the Russians. I mean, they couldn't beat them, because they go underneath the holes, they come out, they do strategically, and they mimic you. They mimic the way you fight. So after they see that once you take a fire, your fires team runs to a wall and strategically angles themselves to protect themselves. They put IEDs there. They put string IEDs in those places where they know that you're going to go. It's complacency. Complacency of what we do ultimately is going to ultimately get you there. So, but at the same time, we had some really great leaders. When I say Captain Chowhouse, First Sergeant Rummel, I'm like, just amazing leaderships that we did have. And they were there with you in the fight. So the gunnies, the sergeant major, everybody, I mean, not sergeant major, but the commander, our captain was there, and our first sergeant was there from battalion. So they were fighting with us alongside, Gunny Hendrick, which was fucking amazing dude, was there, doing his work in the grind with us, sleeping in the same play locations that we were sleeping at. So yeah, you do kind of lose a little bit of faith, but at the same time, like, they were so positive as far as what we can do and what we're capable of doing. So when you have people like that around you, it uplifts you, makes you as brave as them, And so when we're losing people, it just becomes common second nature. You're like, it's part of war, right? We lose people, we go out there and whatever. But when we were out there in firefights, we were excited. We were like shooting people. We're not shooting people, but shooting at like sparkling lights, right? Sparkling lights somewhere in there. So we don't know where we're shooting people. We're not like, it's not Vietnam. We're combat face to face. You have a person with a But at one time, we had to connect our bayonets to our rifles because we were at that point where they were getting so close to us, where we had to connect our bayonets and we were ready to. It's funny about the bayonets; they were all rusted, and like so old, they haven't been used. And even the mortar rounds are so old, the mortar rounds that we use, like there were white phosphorus and we had red phosphorus, which haven't been used, are not even allowed to be used because of what it can do to people. It can melt you, and it's chemical welfare, so we don't use that. But we had it in case we got to that point where we needed to use it. But it was so old that when we shot rounds out of it, the rounds exploded to the top because they were so old and they'd never been used and they were stored correctly. So when that happened, a lot of us, like I said, the mortar team was incredible out there. We didn't have any indirect help of fire. We were using the British 105s, which were like long range rifles that would just shoot missiles that would shoot out to different locations that we spotted. We had people set up on mountaintops where our FO, Forward Observer, and a lot of the Estonian and British were up, so looking, gathering intel. Once we gathered a lot of intel out there, we start going different missions. We had 6. I don't know how many. I don't know. I can tell you. Every week we had a mission somewhere. We kept surpassing every single spot. At one point, we had Taliban headquarters, which was we had to run through like countless fields to get to past like a place where they were doing training facility for the Taliban. We got there. I mean, I could tell you these guys' hearts were out there. Everybody's, like I said, everybody's bravery is out of this world. There's young kids, 18, 19, even 17-year-old kids protecting one each other. You can't even write. You want to write the perfect movie? That's the perfect movie right there. When you see it for your real life and you see the war that's happening, and we were outnumbered. We lost about in the first month, we lost 35 people.
Wow.
And we lost 10 people that were KIA in that first month. After the first month, it just kept growing from there. We had over at the end of the whole deployment, we had over 200 injuries, people that got injured, either wounded. We lost about 50 or 60 to KIA across all our battalions, all battalion across all our different FOBs that we were part of. So in that was part of the injury that I got received. It was I can tell you a little about that.
Yeah, before you get to that point, are you wondering, like, at this point, as you're seeing guys continually get hurt, like, are you thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to die here?
Yeah, man. I had a satellite phone. I was able to use a satellite phone. Not that much because I was a new guy. So the new guys always get the last
right.
Ability to use the phone. So when I actually was called back, I told my dad and my mom, and I was very fearful for my life. I did tell them, at least if I don't make it back, I just want you to know that, I appreciate everything you've done for me. And like,
you actually had that conversation with your parents?
Yeah, I had to because I was very fearful.
Wow.
I didn't know what was going to happen the next day.
Yeah, I never like, I didn't want to. I knew that was the reality.
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to write a letter. Like, it wasn't my thing. It was just sort of silent prayers that I would always say on a routine basis. But I never wanted my mother to worry, like I never wanted my parents to worry, like to have that conversation with them and tell them, hey, in case I don't make it back, like that's got to be. Did you ever talk to your parents after the fact about having that conversation with them, with what they were thinking?
Yeah. And what's funny, growing up, I never really seen my dad be like tearful or show much emotion.
Right.
So when before I left to Afghanistan, my mom has a lot of emotion, so she's very fearful. She's very expressive. She knows how to express her feelings. So for her, it was normal for express any kind of like fear or the unknown. For my dad, when I left Afghanistan, he gave me a hug, and it was probably the first time I've ever seen him like tearful. So I think that was like, to me, that was like, maybe he does think this is going to happen to me, right? So when that when that happened, and I was talking to him over the phone, I did tell him, I was like, hey, can you send me some care packages? First thing you say, can you send me some monsters, monsters and some hot Cheetos and, all the cool stuff, the good stuff that was out there in the United States that that we were missing out there. We didn't have anything. Ramen noodle soup was the biggest thing. We asked for ramen noodle soup all the time. So when I had this conversation with them, I would tell them, I was like, hey, if I don't come back, like, I appreciate everything you've done for me. And like, I want you to know that I died doing something I love to do. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not going as many patrols as other people are, but if it does happen, this is what I enjoy doing it. And I want you to remember me as that person, not the person that like, you remember me leaving and like, who I was in high school, who I was growing up, is a person that's willing to kind of put myself over, put everybody else besides over myself. And I thought I had to do that because I felt like my whole life I wasn't living up to I wasn't really I stopped being religious when I lost a lot of my friends, through suicide and stuff that's happened to them. And I just felt that God was giving me, like, God didn't, was punishing me in some way. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to change my life and just, be in service to others. And I think that's what that was about. That conversation was about being service to others.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because did you internally recognize that transition had happened in you before having that conversation? Right. I mean, because that's a pretty transformative thing. Like, you were just so reflective in that moment where you sit there and you say, I had a life, but it wasn't going where I wanted it to. And I'm not sure what I was going to be and who I was going to be. But somehow along the way, between getting beat up in boot camp and pissed on in School of Infantry and at the fleet and everything, treated like trash, somewhere this transformation happened for you that all of a sudden you recognize and realize that there's a greater calling, and that's me to serve other people. Like, that seems like, at least I'm hearing it, like you didn't really have that revelation until you had actually made that phone call.
Yeah, I did it. And the maturity wasn't there. I felt like I saw that maturity when I started seeing 17, 18-year-olds fight for each other. I think when I saw that bravery, it made me want to be as brave as them. So a lot of them didn't come home, and a lot of them had families that had kids. I didn't have a family as far as like a wife and a kid to go back to. So I didn't think about that stuff. I learned I had a kid at like towards the end of the deployment. That's when I kind of started caring about my life. I said, hey, you know what? I do want to come back. But when you initially don't know about having a kid, it's just, or family, it's just like, well, I have my wife, my mom, and my dad, but it's not going to hurt as many people. I mean, I haven't impacted that many people yet to maybe just my family or my cousins and my uncles, stuff like that. But as far as every other people depending on me, there wasn't much dependability. So when I saw people that were like, for example, one of my cot mates, he was a EOD sergeant, and even though EOD is the guy, the explosive devices, the guys that go out there and IEDs from the ground. He actually got called in the morning around 7. I think it was like a 5 a.m. call that one of the sniper team found an IED in the ground, and then it needed to be removed because it was in a place where we needed to do a patrol through. So the guy came out with the night before. His name was Staff Sergeant Strickland. The night before, he was watching a movie and talking. He has his own personal satellite phone. He's a sergeant. He's lucky. So he was talking to his family back at home, and he had a picture on his computer that showed like his family, his dogs, and everything. And he were watching a movie together from far. I was watching a movie from far. He didn't let me watch it. So that's from far. I was just kind of watching it, sleeping in. And the next morning, he had a call, like I mentioned. They went to patrol. He didn't come back after that. He got blown up. When he was taking out the IED, he was blown up in pieces. When they were around 7 a.m, I woke up. I was waking up at that time. We had a call on the radio. We had a bunch of trucks coming in. The trucks came back in, and there was a bunch of like blood on the trucks, and there was like people were holding pieces of remains in their hands, bringing them back into the fob. And obviously, that's when we all realized that Sergeant Strickland didn't make it, and it was in pieces. Basically, they found him in pieces. Like everything was like he got blown up. He died. So it was pretty hard for that moment, that night, the realization like this is, I can really die here, and I can, this can really happen to me, and like I don't want to come back in pieces. That's not the way I want my family to remember me. I can't even get a proper burial. You want to remember me that way. So that was kind of a realization. That was a little bit more scary thing, is I saw that happening, and like everything really became real after that. We lost. After that is when I got when I went to a patrol. I kept volunteering and go out more with the rifle companies, because I didn't really want to stay much in the fob. I feel like staying in the fob really affected me more and more and more.
But that's counterintuitive, though, right? Like you realize you're going to die here, and yet you keep asking to go on more patrols, and not that you would necessarily avoid them, but it's one of those things where you don't have to raise your hand and go, "Hey, I'll do this one. I'll do this one."
I feel like I needed to prove myself, though. I feel like I needed to prove myself. I mean, I haven't done. I'm a new guy. I got to show that, they treated, like I said, I didn't get treated very well, boot camp and SOI in the fleet. So when they saw that I was willing to volunteer, and they saw that I was unfearful to do everything possible to go out there for the mission, and everything changed. The personality of everybody, the way they saw me, the way they perceived me was very, very different. I mean, everybody trusted me more. I got treated more respectfully. It was, to me, that was the most thing, is to get people's approval, to show them that I was there to protect them from the left and right of my brother and sister. And that was important to me, is to show that I was willing to risk my life for them just as much as they were willing to risk their life for me. So when I was out there, like I said, it's that showed so much important for me. And when I was out there, that last deployment, when I got wounded, that showed so much. Like I said, I was out there. I didn't even have to be out there, and I was out there, and I volunteered as a rifleman at that time. We didn't even need to have mortars out there. I put my 60 millimeter mortar with me on that patrol, but I didn't really use it. For some reason, our driver had a saw, a light machine gun. When I saw, I'm not really sure why he had it. I never seen a driver have a saw, but I guess they made him the driver, and he was driving everybody. So when we were out in patrol, and we were mounted on the vehicles, we were pushing out to a specific compound where we thought that there was going to be weapons and all this stuff. When we pushed out to that fob, the compound out there, somebody called for us to dismount. I'm not really sure why. I really believe is they try to protect the trucks, because we didn't have any trucks out there. So they told us to dismount and to have these. We had these the assaultmen had these minesweepers, because the minesweepers, and then they had combat engineers doing minesweepers. So they were using the minesweepers in the front, whatever, to make sure no step in IEDs. We were dismounted, and then all of a sudden we got a freaking attack from everywhere. Like it was all
this
over
is the time. This is the time when you got injured, right?
Yeah,
this is first deployment or second deployment, just for clarification.
First deployment.
First deployment. Okay.
We're still in the first deployment. Yeah.
How far into the deployment are you?
We're about, I think, 3 to 4 months. I think it's close to there. So
you're about halfway through.
3 months.
Halfway through for Marine deployment, right?
Well, no, we were there for a whole year.
Oh, you were right. Yeah. You're there for, okay, so you mentioned.
Months, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Just to recap, I just want to.
Yeah.
So the viewers and the listeners can understand. So you volunteer for this deployment, and you go as a rifleman, not even as a mortarman, which your job is trained. Now, obviously, at that point in time, they had to trust you, right? Because they were willing to give you a job that you completely weren't. I don't want to say weren't trained for, but you get my point. It wasn't your primary job.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in the Marine Corps, we're all riflemen, right? This is what the
sure,
was.
Right.
So we got trained on a marksmanship. I knew I wasn't the best shooter in the Marine Corps, but I knew where to aim, and I knew how to do what I needed to do in order to if I ever get in danger, or if somebody that's shooting back at me, I shoot back at them. So yes, they needed people. Like I said, we were losing people, so they were short on people, the riflemen they needed out there. So yes, I volunteered for the patrol. So when I went out there to patrol with them, it like I said went south really bad. We got left. We got ambushed from front. At first, it started from the front, and then we started getting shot. We started getting contact from the right and the left, and then on the rear there was they were actually our people. They were shooting at the other people. So we thought they were firing behind us. So we're keeping on the radio. We keep saying, "Who the hell is shooting behind us?" And but we were like, we're all crazy. We went all over the place. The gunners were starting to shoot people in the front. They were going crazy. They were at weapons. They were yelling, laughing. They were shooting people. And I'm like, from far, like I said, it was glares. I didn't see people. I didn't see many people running around. I just saw glares of lights out there. So one of the guys that we dismounted, one of the guys lost his radio. He lost his radio, and he was behind us. And he's like, "Hey, you can't find my radio. Can you come back and help me look for my radio?" And it was behind us. So it was like, okay, whatever. I want to go back and help him find that radio. When we got back to the radio, we couldn't fucking find the radio. And then all of a sudden, as we get close to a truck, one of the guys, his name is Reinhardt, I think Reinhardt, one of our senior lance corporals, he got shot in the femoral. So he got shot in the leg, in the femoral, and he started bleeding out. And he started seeing like blood like splurting out. So he was in the ground. The corpsman ran across the field. The corpsmen were incredible at the point. Ran out there, grabbed them, stopped the bleeding, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I took the 249 saw from the rifle is terrible. When you shoot, you're like, this is boring. Dude. So I put it on burst because I know the M16s have a burst now. They had a burst on them. So I put the burst. It was still kind of boring to me. I was looking to shoot. I felt like I was shooting nobody. So I took the 249 saw from the driver, and I start going on the prone and trying to use it, shooting it. But they were, all of a sudden when I went up to aim, I saw like a white, I felt like a white light, whatever, sparkle through me, and it hit the RCO. It broke the RCO, and it hit the truck, and it bounced back, and it glazed me, but enough glaze took the chunk of my neck meat off. So it was a chunk of meat coming out of my neck, but it went down the cavalier and it swung down to my neck.
Explain this again. So a bullet was shot past you, but initially missed, and then
it hit the RCO. Yes. It missed. The RCO hit. The RCO got hit. It hit the Humvee. Right. Because the Humvee actually hit the exhaust. So the exhaust went like crazy. So you start seeing the exhaust going up, and then all of a sudden, I felt bleeding behind my neck. Well, I felt very warm, very warm, like
warm and wet.
Just iron stung me with it. Oh, like a giant bee just stung me, whatever.
Right.
So it just went, and I saw my Kevlar. My Kevlar had like a giant, the rib piece of the Kevlar piece off of it, because the Kevlar is not meant to stop a bullet. It's meant to ricochet bullets. But it was a rifle. It was a sniper round. The 7.6. It was a pretty big round. Yeah. So the round, when you just see like the round just blasted through it, and then it went down to my neck, and it took. It should have easily killed me. It would, if the RCO wasn't in my face, it would have shot me right through the eye. I would have been dead. So the RCO blocked ricochet the ability for it to go to my neck, through my eye, to ricochet to the side of my neck, and to the side of my Kevlar to my neck down.
Wow. So you're talking a matter of millimeters.
Yeah, like really, really close. And I start, obviously when I didn't recognize that I got shot. Because I was like in the zone. I was trying to shoot people, whatever. And then when I started kind of feeling like stuff dripping, I went back on my neck and I felt a giant hole in my neck. So that's where I started kind of panicking. And then I fell to the ground, and I was bleeding like well, I felt I was bleeding like nonstop, but I wasn't really bleeding as much as I thought it was. And then I got on the ground. I kind of start, saying one of the machine gunners that was on one of the machine gunners that was on the turret tried to jump off the turret to try to help me because he saw that I got shot. His name was Luis Ortiz. It was Ortiz, Nestor Ortiz, and he was trying to jump off the turret to try to help me because there was no corpsman around. So the corpsman was helping the other guy that got shot tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he was trying to help him, and then finally the corpsman just kind of, some other guy came in because a lot of us were trying combat lifesavers, so we know how to stop the bleed. We need to. So one of the guys came in. I don't know who it was. Grabbed me. Threw me in the truck, and start patching me up on my neck area. But my eye, I couldn't see out of my eye because I thought my eye was shot off, to be honest. I couldn't see because the RCO had hit me, like it struck me in the eye, so I couldn't see. So when the pressure of the round pushed it back and it hit me in the eye, so I couldn't see. I thought my eye was shut off, and then my neck was. I thought it was more severe than it really was. And they threw me on the truck. We didn't have kilos. We didn't have any of that stuff. So we threw me on the compound of the truck, threw me back, and then dropped me back off we had ICU there, like a small little ICU, like for emergency reaction team for like a doctor on staff, basically. So we had a doctor on staff who patched me up. I couldn't see out of my eye for like days, for like weeks. I was blind for weeks and stuff like that. And I had blood. I had a very severe pain on my neck and my back. I couldn't really move very well. But I never actually they asked me if I wanted to be sent back to Bashton to see a real doctor, and then also back to Kandahar, and then basically leave deployment, basically. And at that moment, I was just like, I didn't really want to, I wanted to get some kind of payback. I don't know what the hell. When you're in an adrenaline rush, you just want to go back out there again and do it again. And after I had like a realization after weeks there, I was just like, nah, I should fucking left. Like this, I think I'm done here. But that's what happened. And then I got after that we there for a year. We were there. We got extended for a year. We did we lost a lot of people out there. Came back, and the history was after that. After we came back, there was nobody to come to. There is no. I mean, when you come back, you feel like everybody was there to like praise you, thank you for all you did. You're so excited to get back from deployment. You got shot, incredible story, blah blah. But it really isn't that red cutting ceremony that you expect when you get back.
Right.
And I can imagine people in the Vietnam when they came back, nobody gave a hell what you did. And when you come back here in war, I mean, yeah, you have your family, your immediate family there, but like nothing was the same. You couldn't get out of the mentality that something was that you can't transition. It was a very difficult way to transition out. That's the reason why we as combat veterans, it's very difficult. After you see so much, how do you go back into reality and you're like, you appreciate everything, like even hot water. You appreciate hot water. We had cold water, well water that we had to use when we're deployed. So when we came back, we're trying to go back into society. It was very difficult. So after that, the history was there. I became a squad leader for the next deployment. We were supposed to go to Afghanistan again, but we didn't. We ended up going to a 31st MEU, and I think, to be honest, that's what caused a lot of our mental health to go down under, because we thought that we were trying to become leaders and to lead the next young junior Marines to a war that never happened. And when that war never happened and we went to this 31st MEU, we didn't do anything. All we did was party and train some Thailand Marines out there that we trained. We did like a lot of helo company. We did a lot of, water exercises, a bunch of stuff that, you would never do in your life. It was great training, but we didn't go to war. So a lot of the squad leaders were replaced by people that were in the embassy, people that have never deployed in their lives. So you come in the war and you have guys that are coming as corporals or sergeants, or replacing our lance corporals that were that fought in the war. So after that, it really, I think it affected so much. From there, we started losing people with mental health to suicide, left and right. We're now over 70 people that killed themselves since our deployment, more than we lost in Afghanistan in that 2-7 deployment. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, you lost more people to suicide post-deployment than you did on deployment.
Yeah, we lost more to suicide by far. Wow. And not even the guys that didn't even go to Afghanistan, the people that came into the drop before us to go to 31st MEU, those people, one of my best friends took their lives because he felt that he never deployed to Afghanistan. So he can never be the same stand as tall as the guys that trained him. So he was able to prove himself. Basically.
How come you didn't succumb to suicide?
Well, like I said, man, I think everybody has those thoughts, especially when you get out of the Marines. I mean, when I was about to leave the infantry, I got transferred to military police to be an MP. When I was an MP there, I was kind of doing that transition so I could be a cop, right? I wanted to be a cop, San Bernardino. That was my kind of, or go back to Vegas to be a cop, or go back to Salinas, where I'm from, Monterey, California, and become a police officer there because I went through a lot of bad things there. So, but when I was an MP, I realized right away that my PTSD and my I couldn't do it. I was at night. I was very fearful for the night. Like, for example, like cold wind and like air blowing in my face. I felt like it brought me back to war. It brought me back to 20 on Palms. It brought me back to the gun drills. It brought me back to that life. And it was very difficult for me to that transition piece where I wasn't able to be like, you know what, I can't be an MP either. I can't even be a cop. Well, how am I going to be a cop if I can't even be an MP? So I started kind of going down under from being an MP. Like, I didn't do so well there. It was great that I did it because imagine if I would have been, to be a police officer, you have the police academy and do all that stuff, and have a gun and do all that stuff to pull people over. And I couldn't even pull up when I was an MP. I pulled over some lady, and the lady didn't smoke pot, but the car smelled like pot. And because the son borrowed the vehicle the day before, it smelled like pot. So the MP guy, the sergeant guy, he decided to, and I'm telling you, man, this badge thing is like, they feel like they have so much power behind this little badge and how they can treat people. So how they treat this lady was the most messed up thing I've ever seen. They told her, they was like, hey, well, it smells like weed here, so you must have weed in this car. So I told her to take the lady, this older lady, man, like 60, 70-year-old lady. They pulled to the side. They told her, hey, you got to step out of the vehicle. We're going to bring the search dog. So we brought a search dog. The dog ripped apart the entire car, ripped it apart, ripped the seats off there, everything. And we didn't find any pot whatsoever. And this lady was so upset and said, why you guys ripped my car apart? My son probably used it before. I mean, I don't do pot, whatever. We didn't even give her ability to talk. We told her to shut up. I stayed quiet because I wasn't training, so I don't really know. So, but the guy was ripped apart thing. And then after that, I told him, have a nice day. After the car was ripped apart. And I was like, this is not what I want. Pulling old ladies up, giving tickets. That's not what I want to do. So when I did, after that, I left. I moved to California. I went to, I wanted a fresh start. So I just recently got married. I met my wife. Right after Afghanistan, I met my wife, and I asked her some Marine Corps ball. It was pretty funny because, like I said, I asked her through third party, and she accepted. Obviously, a lot of people want to go to the Marine Corps ball. I was like, yeah, it's awesome. Had all these cool medals. I had all these ribbons. So it was really impressing. I felt like I was going to impress her with all these medals and all this great stuff. Saw these uniforms, awesome, dude. So it was the best thing ever. And then, when we got married, she did a lot for me. And then, but everything was going well to the end when I was transitioning out. We decided to move to California, to Murrieta, California, to do start a new life. Just not go back to Vegas, not go back to Monterey, to none of that stuff. Kind of just start brand new. It was the most toughest thing to do, man. I couldn't find a job anywhere. I couldn't find nothing. I put a resume together. I couldn't get a job anywhere. I put Marine Corps as my first thing. So I thought that was the best thing ever right there. So I put that in my resume. I applied a couple places. Nobody would take me. Nobody would call me back. So I decided to go to a school because when you go to school, when you get a GI Bill, you get money. So a lot of us were like, I'm just gonna go to school just to try it out, see if I like it. I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about going to school anymore. But I got into school. I enrolled myself to University of Phoenix. Whatever. I tried. I could have got to a university. Yes, I had the grades. I had the ability to go anywhere. But I wanted to work. So how do I work? Be a busy schedule, do an online university. But the good thing about University of Phoenix is they have campuses. You guys should go to campus and actually attend the classes. So I attended the class once a week, which is great. You can work all you want, go once a week, and then you can do each of the classes, get your credits. So I did that, and I got a job doing a security guard job at a company called Signal 88 Security. I was making like $8 an hour. $8 an hour. I went from being a corporal to, it wasn't the best pay in the Marine Corps either. So when I got out, I was making $8 an hour. And living in California, in San Diego, or Temecula, Murrieta area, making $8 an hour is
you may as well be homeless.
You might as well be homeless. So the money where I was getting the money was my BAH. So I got from the basic allowance for housing from the military when you go to college, when you go to enroll in college. So I enrolled in college. So I got that money. I was receiving like $2,100 because that's the highest you can get from California. So it was the best. So I received that money. When I was receiving that money, that's how I was paying my rent. My rent was almost $2,000. Oh. Making $8 an hour, and my wife doesn't have a job. It was outrageous. So I really at that point was feeling very, very insecure about myself, making that really bad money. And then the other thing is was going through a custody battle for my other daughter. So having that part of that and had to pay child support to that because I didn't know, what was deployed overseas. And, apparently judges don't really care if you're overseas and they'll just put child support on you. Like, okay, put child support on him. He's not here. How does that work? So when that happened, I was paying child support. I was doing that. I couldn't get a job anywhere. So I decided, my wife was really, really going through a mental health breakdown. Myself too, to be honest. And we decided, we need support. We need to get the hell out of here. We decided to move back to Vegas. We moved back to Vegas. I was able to get a job with a security company. With that, I was able to get a job I applied for a federal job with ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. Mm-hmm. So I did that. It was different from being a cop. It was just doing something different. I speak Spanish, so it was, I thought that was gonna be a perfect role for me to be able to help other people that didn't have, it help in a different way. So the job itself was pretty bad as far as like I had to learn how to drive a bus. So I had to get my CDL. So I got my commercial driver license. Once I got that, I got my commercial driver license. I became a bus driver, and I had to transport people from police departments to different police departments, dropping them off. That's when it really hit me when I felt bad for people. I don't know what the hell, why I was so soft. You know what I mean? I was in the Marine Corps, and then all of a sudden I'm so soft picking people up. But that's when I finally got my break. I got $26 an hour. Finally, I was making $26 an hour, right? But I was only working 30 hours. And I was working at midnight, 4 a.m., midnight to 4 a.m. Wow. 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. It was terrible times. So, and then I had to come back in the afternoon, like around 4, to pick people up in the afternoon. So I had split shift, and I was only working 30 hours. My wife finally got a job, doing something that makes more money, getting tips in the service industry, which is awesome. She was making way more money now. I was making a little bit more money. Moved from a 1-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom apartment. I finally got custody battle with my daughter after so much stuff that I went through with her. So everything was going really well after that, and then in college, I was almost close to finishing my bachelor's degree in computer science. So I transferred over. So I got my bachelor's degree in computer science, and finished University of Las Vegas. I was able to finish all that. Great. It was awesome. And everything was really looking my way. I finally got my break. I got into the IT realm. I wanted to do something that had nothing related to law enforcement, nothing related to going out there and pulling people over. Right. So I stopped doing ICE because I couldn't do it. I thought PTSD was too bad. So you know what? I'm going to sit behind a computer desk. So I did that. I went and got a job at a surveillance company just to try to get into the IT realm and casino business. So one of my friends got me into the job. He used to own a security company. He got me a job in working IT help desk. I worked IT help desk for about a year, and I moved through the ranks really, really fast. I was the only Marine infantry guy in the whole company. Everyone in college, everybody did all this stuff, all these great things, man. All these people went to colleges, all this education. And I'm like, I just got computer science barely. But I had to go to war and had to do all this stuff to get here. So I finally got there. I was making 15 bucks, went back to 26 to making 15 bucks again. 15 bucks working help desk. And you know what? That was better than $8 an hour at a security guard job. So I did that, 15 bucks an hour. I grew through the business like crazy, man. I went through making help desk to application service, application support, running as a manager at a company. I moved to a different company. I became the tech lead. I became a manager, senior manager, director. I got to always the director role. Now where I'm at with the company, I could have technically been the CIO of the whole company by now, but something was missing. Nothing was missing when I was doing all these things. I still felt very suicidal as far as we're like secure. I felt like something was still missing. When we talked about that conversation about how you felt after the military and how you feel, it feels empty. It feels voided. It feels like something was missing. Like I felt like I wanted that whole barracks feeling still. I wanted to enjoy my friends with my brothers and sisters. I wanted to have that fun time where we're drinking the fob and listening to music, listening to Live Your Life after we got out of the deployment. And that was the first thing we listened to was Live Your Life by Rihanna, which is hilarious.
T.I. Rihanna, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the first song we came back to. So we were so excited to come back. And that's what was missing for me. I felt like every day even though I had my wife and my daughter, I felt like they did not see me as that same superhero that they saw in uniform. And I felt that uniform defined who I was. So everybody would see me as this really great, dressed blues, really nice. And in this uniform, my parents really felt proud of me. And then when I got out, they didn't see me in that uniform anymore. They saw something different. They saw some guy that felt that he was, I don't know, I felt he said, oh, he was depressed. My wife would always be like, well, what's wrong with you? You're doing it better. You're doing better now. I couldn't be vulnerable to people. I felt vulnerability was a weakness just by talking about how weak I felt inside. And my daughter was growing up, so I didn't want her to see me as a weak soul and a weak person. So I hid everything inside of me. I hid everything inside of me as much as I could. I talked to people in the moment of deployment. Some guy named Denver reached out to me, Denver Morris. It's funny because I didn't know him in the military because he was a rifleman. Riflemen and weapons people just don't really stick close together very long. So we have our own cliques in the military. Mm-hmm. So he was a rifleman. I saw a post that he was coming to Vegas. He was coming to Vegas, like, hey, I'm coming to Vegas. To be honest, I mistaken him for a different Morris. So I thought, I don't know who he was. I said, hey man, you're in Vegas? Hey, I'd love to catch up. You're 2-7. Let's hang out. And that was when we hanged out. It was the weirdest thing ever because he was telling me like, he had 100% disability, and he was telling me he was still miserable. He was telling me about disability, how to get disability. I didn't even know anything about disability until I talked to him, and I was like, yeah, I should file for disability too. I have all these problems. So long story short, we hanged out. We did it. We went through this club. We hanged out with some other 2-7 guys that were there. And a week later passed. His posts got very, very dark. His posts got very, very dark. We started talking about like, he's not good enough. His dog is going through some, these health issues. Sister was very concerned with his health. And he decided to take one day of his to go on a joyride and try to end his life, right? But I did express to him like how I felt and how I sometimes wanted to drive my vehicle off a mountain and just die. And I was trying to find ways to do it, but I felt like I had too many people that depended on me to take my own life. But if I didn't have my daughter or my wife, I think it would have been it. I mean, that was just, to me, I felt like nobody was dependent on me, and I felt too much pain. I felt too much pain inside of me that I wanted to go away. So I know how he felt, right? Felt that he had nobody. So I understand that he had a wife, he had a kid, by his dogs. So when he was going through that, I was on the phone call with him the entire drive, the majority of the drive, while he was compensating thinking about killing himself, driving his vehicle and driving straight forward. And from there, we called the California Highway Patrol. I called his sister. I talked to his sister. They found him. When they found him, luckily he didn't die. He overdosed, and he almost overdosed on some pills. They found him. He was put into an institution, to get to rehab, get the stuff going right head. The history is there. The history from there, from where Nate showed up. Nate Boyer, who's a Green Beret, ex-Seattle Seahawk, was doing some type of film or something. People were transitioning out of the service. He met Denver there, and I guess that Denver and him had a conflict where he came in there trying to film people, and obviously we don't want people filming our fucking house where we live. So they had a conflict, and Nate had a conversation with Denver about starting this group of people that talk about vulnerability. He laughed at that idea. Obviously I did too. I mean, when he talked to me about it, he said, what do you mean vulnerability with professional athletes? What? With guys that make millions and millions of dollars? You mean those people? We don't relate to them at all. So when we went out, when he told us where the gym was at, I drove out there and went to a breakable performance, some gym, some pink building. It was weird. We walked into a pink building, and I was like, I thought I was going to be like, I don't know, killed in there or something like that.
You were getting punked.
Getting punked or something, yeah. So I did it. It was a bunch of athletes, different athletes, Bradley Couture, all these different athletes. I was a little bit, obviously a little bit starstruck there. I was going in there, but when we start talking about our feelings about that huddle, it was just we did the workout, and then after that we just sat there. I was like, all right, who wants to talk? Basically, who wants to talk? I was like, nobody. All of us stayed muted, and and Denver was very difficult to open up a story. And now he does it with no problem. But at that time, he did feel vulnerable. He did feel like he can open up a story. And once people started opening up to each other, the history was there. I mean, everything really stuck to us as how human beings can do something for such a long time, and then when it takes away from you, or a uniform gets taken out from you, or you're out of that uniform, you feel broken. You feel like nobody looks at you the same way anymore. And that's how I felt. I felt my wife and my daughter never felt the same way for me. I wasn't the same athletic guy anymore. I wasn't the same guy that was running PFTs, that we call them, physical training. We had to do 3 miles, 28 minutes under. We had to do 28 minutes. I do 3 miles under 28 minutes.
Right.
And we had to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and then we had to do 20 pull-ups. And all that stuff was easy for us. We're in the military. I mean, we're physically good shape and all that stuff. So we didn't feel that Superman. We felt like Superman, right? We felt like Superman. We're out. We taking that. We felt like Clark. When we're out of uniform, we feel like Clark. Just like you don't feel that same way. You don't feel Bruce Wayne, like when he takes off uniform, he's this rich guy, whatever. He's this rich guy that nobody really takes serious. Doesn't take. We look at him as a vigilante superhero, but that's how we all felt. We felt like we were nobodies. We felt like we were thrown to the side. The military didn't really help me transition out. They didn't show me how to transition out. I didn't know how to transition. I had to find my way to transition out. TAPS program is a joke. Hopefully somebody hears it here. It is not. It is a week long of random people coming in and telling you about security guard jobs. I don't want to do security guard. Like, I don't want to be a police officer. I want to do something else in my life. So I did the opposite. I became a nerdy ass guy going to school, computer science, and do something else. So from there, the history was there. We opened up LA, and then we went to Vegas. We opened up MVP, and the program didn't have a name. There was no name. There was no MVP. There wasn't even a logo. We created some random logo that had like a picture of that I took off the internet of like a UFC fighter bending down like this, their head down, and I took a soldier picture and I put them together.
Superimposed, right?
Yeah, sold the picture, and they were like, fuck, let's just use Nate's picture. So we used Nate's picture for the logo. So his picture when he's holding the gun up like that with the soldier. We added the soldier on it. That's kind of the thing happened. And in the logo, it looked like a chevron. It's a backward chevron. You notice it. Mm-hmm. And so it's we're like the little stars to signify the military. So we put it there, and then initially it was just this logo here, this part, just the MVP.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We once we evolved, we made it more classier. I put the on the side the emerging vets and players aspect of it. But that's when we started calling emerging vets and players. It makes sense, right? It's pretty the emerging vets and players. That's what we're doing. It could be called anything else, but now we're lucky enough to have hired 20 other people and expanding across the United States very significantly and showing vulnerability. And vulnerability has helped so many people in our organization. We have over 2,000 members now globally in our organization, and now have two virtual elements where we're able to reach people that even if you're in your house and somewhere in Mexico or in South Africa, whatever, you can sit down or travel and you can sit down and listen to each part of this program, which is a very sincere program where you come in, there is nothing expected from you, just to be yourself and open up to each other. Workout piece, do the workout, which gets your body and drilling, gets you connected to that person who you're doing the group workout with. And then after that, you just talk about what's some of the stuff that goes through your head. What is some accountability stuff you want to get through be hold accountable for? A lot of us don't have people that hold accountable for. So MVP is a perfect place to do that. And I think the magic of MVP starts with all our staff, right? It starts with us, starts with everybody. It doesn't start with the guy, like Jay always says, a guy that's from Harvard or Stanford with the suit and tie telling us, or a therapist that tells us how we should talk. We have been through the experiences, and we're the ones that will help each other at the end. So I think that's why it makes MVP ultimately so successful. And I think now we're starting to see more people support us because of it, because we really genuinely care about people. And, I'm a success story of MVP, and I only want the best MVP. That's kind of the reason why I ended up going from the Las Vegas program manager all the way to the chief operating officer of MVP.
Well, that was my question. I mean, how does that progress go? Like, at what point in time do you elevate from one job to another?
Yeah, I mean, the progress was, like I said, it's we were small. We were starting from the logo, building the database. Because I had an IT background, I was able to build a lot of our infrastructure, a lot of stuff that we created here. We didn't waste any money on IT. I can tell you that. Besides my time, the hours that I spent on database and development, all that stuff, we didn't spend much money. So we weren't making very much money, right? As a 501c3 nonprofit, we were, basically Jay was paying for the organization because we didn't have donors, we didn't have supporters. Nobody understood what MVP was until we shown the world. We started doing videos. The platform that Jay has was incredible because it helped us expand to people where the reach we had was because of him. And the
Jay, for everybody listening, the Jay he's referring to is Jay Glazer of Fox Sports. And
they didn't listen. Yeah, because there's the platform. The platform that you had, the Nate story, being vulnerability, showing Denver's story to people, showed their vulnerability and showed those athletes. Oren O'Neal being one of the first members, ex-Raiders, a fullback in the NFL, showing the world, what vulnerability really does, what really is after when an athlete gets hurt and they throw him to the side like trash. I mean, you're no longer good to us. So here you go. See you later. Get your pension, get out of here. All these people have been doing it forever. So going from the position, going from as a program manager all the way to development, direct fundraising, IT, doing everything in the organization. I really believe in the organization so much that I decided to finally move into a leadership position to expand MVP in the right direction, because, you know, we didn't have a plan when we started MVP. We thought that the room was just doing the huddles was enough, but it was not. We had to evolve MVP to in between the huddle, beyond the huddle, doing community service events, doing the events that not like mission continues. We're doing service events. We're talking about events that engage our people, our demographics into the community, involving their families. Because when you're in the transition, your families transition with you. You're not just transitioning on your own. Your family, they're transitioning with you. Even though they're not combat veterans, they need that support. So the way we do is we create these events outside of MVP to bring those families and people that are not eligible for MVP, because combat veterans are not the only ones that suffer to mental health. Any veteran suffers to mental health. Any human being can suffer to mental health.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. MVP is just trying to show us a voice to show that mental health and vulnerability. If you are vulnerable to people, more people or more audiences are willing to open up about mental health. And people didn't know about mental health until COVID hit. When COVID hit, people realized that mental health is a very big problem. People to take their lives, kids were taking their lives because they didn't go to school, they didn't have that interaction with people. So it became a first thing a lot of people foundation's mind, because they're like, it really is a hidden war that you don't see. All people want to do is see the outside wounds, missing an arm, missing a leg, whatsoever. And those are the people that that's the image of MVP. I mean, not the image of MVP, I'm sorry. The image of a person looking into a veteran. How broken they are is based on how much injuries they're showing on the outside. But it's the internal wounds that really define who that person is hurting. That person can look completely normal. Next week, he can kill himself. You know, so it's something we got to think about. And, you know, thanks, Mark, for having me on for sure. I mean, it's just talking about MVP and having you part of our staff it's pretty remarkable. And, you know, we all believe in it. That's the reason why we do this. We don't collect a paycheck because we're here to collect a paycheck. You know, we don't get paid a lot amount of money here to do what we do. We do this because we're passionate and we care about people. But the only way you create accountability is you have to have job responsibility for people. And the way you do that is by paying organization, paying employees to do what we do. But at the same time, bring in the right people that want to do the exact same thing we do, is help people just like us.
I mean, it's perfectly well said, you know, and again, and I've said this repeatedly, you know, it's other people within the organization that really inspire me, you know, to want to stay and want to continue to enrich the lives of those around me. I mean, you guys got such a passion for it. And you see that every day. It's evident, you know, I mean, it's plain as the nose on your face, so to speak, you know, when it comes to how much you really believe in what we're doing and the way it's helping people on a day in, day out basis. So, you know, again, your leadership within MVP has been off the charts, and it's part of the reason why the organization is successful and we're touching as many lives as we are. And without you, man, you know, this kind of the whole house of cards falls, bro. I mean, that's just me being real with you.
Thanks,
and the opportunity to work with you on a daily basis has been amazing. You know, and it's great because, you know, peeling back the curtains a little bit for the audience, you know, it's not just work. You know, Noel picks up the phone and calls me and says, "How you doing, man? I just wanted to check in. You know, I just want to see how you're doing." And I'm like, "I'm fine." Like, you know, it's just, it gets me off guard sometimes because I'm generally okay, knock on wood. Like, I'm generally, you know, obviously I have my struggles and my mental health and everything else, but, you know, it's when somebody like that calls you to check in on you and it's not work and it's not business and it's not, "Hey, this needs to be done." It's just, "Hey, man, how are you?" That's one of the more uplifting things you could do. And I think all of us miss the opportunity to do that more often than not, just to check in and say, "Hey, how are you? I'm just thinking about you. I want to make sure you're okay." And you know, that's it's almost a microcosm of what MVP does, right? Each week, it's just a check-in. How are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, how are you?
What do you want to talk about?
That check-in makes a difference. That check-in makes a difference from a person having a really bad day to making their day better. It's just that simple hi, hello, reaching out, text messages. That really makes a difference. My wife always tells me, why do you invest so much time on text people and like that? And like, open up time for us. That person's really struggling. I heard them in the huddle talk about something. And people always, they come to the MVP and they get intimidated. They come in and they go like the huddle, the workout, they're like, what's an extreme couture? Or it's at Unbreakable, they're top performers, athletes. You don't have to be a top athlete to be, I'm not in great shape myself. So it's just like, you have to like, the purpose of the whole thing is to get you to realize that whatever you're going through, you're not going through this alone. And you have other people to uplift you. And I think that's what people need to understand is that even if you show up to MVP once, just give it a try. You don't like it, you have nothing to lose. There's no benefits being taken out of the paycheck. There's no cap. There's nothing out of this. Everything is organic. You get automated. That's the reason why we take so long to respond sometimes, because everything is organic. Everything we don't do automation. I'm an IT guy. You think I don't like automation? Automate everything if you want to. Anybody can send a newsletter and automate everything, but that's not what we do here. We do everything personal, just like how you do, Mark, when email, you said spread out. Those are personal emails, and it makes a difference.
Yeah. And just in the bigger context, you talk about the story that you had before with Denver and other people, it's that uplifting moment where you just check in on somebody. You don't know how they're doing. They could be getting ready to go on a drive to go do something that they can't undo. And your phone call literally can change the course of those events. And your check-in can literally change the course of those events. And I think that's never something we can underscore, so why we need to take more time to do it. Well, you guys can check it all out at vetsandplayers.org. And Noel is on there. You can read more about his bio and everything else. But, I love you, man. It's always great to talk to you. I love, getting a chance to sit down with some of the MVP folks, because you guys really are just some of the most genuine, honest, good people that I've ever been around. And you're military folks like me. And so, we kind of think on that same wavelength, but we understand each other on a different level. And that dedication of life to service, I think, is super important as well.
Thanks, Mark. No, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me. Like I said, this is a good opportunity. Like I said, I don't really do any podcasts and share.
No, you don't. You don't tell enough of your story.
Yeah. Well, because I'm the guy behind the scenes. I know, but that's who I like to be. So
millimeters away from being dead is worthwhile letting people know about sometimes.
Yeah. And like I said, it's something that we're all passionate for. So like, it's everything we have here is about what we do, and like I said, that mental health really, really gets to you if you let it bubble up and inside of you. You really have to be vulnerable. And I'm trying to teach that to my daughter right now, and my wife is understanding that you showing me your vulnerable side does not make you weak. I will not judge you based on that, because I know how it feels to be judged for so many years. And now that I realize what that is, like, and people talk about mental health, it's like, to me, I'm like, well, I'll tell you everything about my life. And maybe you're willing to tell me everything about your life, or how can I help you with? But it's funny when you talk about mental health, a lot of people are very fearful. They change the conversation like this. Like, I have playing the soccer team, and once I talk about conversation about mental health, they go, I don't know, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
So they change the subject, because it's they're not going to speak to a stranger like me, but I can tell they have some kind of mental health aspect that there's somewhere they have to share with somebody, but there's just not one way to do it. So, but I mean, overall, I think hope for all this podcast, everything else just really gives a light to vulnerability and understanding that, it's the uniform doesn't define who you are. And it's what your rib cage, just like Jay says all the time, it's what the rib cage what defines you, of all the great work and all the stuff that you've done in your life to get to the top or be successful in life. And successful doesn't have to be being rich. Successful can be looked at as having a great life with your family, seeing them grow up to be great people just like you. And I think that's all that matters.
Great words, Noel Huerta. Thank you so much for being part of the Hazard Ground, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Kill Cliff's Hazard Ground podcast, hosted by Mark Zeno. If you have an interesting story to tell and you'd like to be on the show, send us an email at producer@hazardground.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.